Steve Rothvogel, when he asked me to do this, said that this was supposed to be 80% about me and 20% about what I do, but that didn't seem much like a craft talk, so I'm actually going to be shifting that around. I'll talk a little about my own background, but I do want to talk a bit about nonprofits and fundraising as an industry. So, but I will start just by introducing myself. So, my name is Arthur Joseph Fritz III, born in 1970 in San Francisco, and I was almost immediately given the nickname Tri by my father. Tri being from the third in my name there. It was a name that he gave me because he is Arthur Jr. and never liked that name. My father was always J. Fritz. So I am the son of Barbara and J. Fritz. I don't get to say anything else. I was raised by an absolutely world-class set of parents. My mother, up until I was born, was secretary to the treasurer of Transamerica Insurance. My father, growing up, was not involved in the wine industry. That is something that came much later in life for him. Growing up, my father was actually the president of Fritz Companies, the original family business. It's a freight forwarding and customs brokerage firm. Today we call that industry logistics. So it's moving goods around the world and finding the most efficient routes. Fritz Companies had a particular niche in that we moved large freight. And by large, I mean that one of our clients was Toyota. So back in the day when Japanese cars were made in Japan, how do you get something the size of a car and the weight of a car, not just to the United States, but to every dealer in San Francisco, in LA, in Des Moines, in Tulsa, and wherever it has to go. So it's a very particular niche of the business. When my father eventually sold out his shares to the business, it was the largest company of its type in the world. I'm the oldest of three kids. I have a younger brother, Clayton. He's the one who runs the winery now. So maybe if you're expecting a big wine talk, we're going to need to bring him into this, actually. And I have a younger sister. Pardon me?
Does he come with the wine?
Well, I brought wine. And I have a younger sister Jenner, as well. Grew up, as I mentioned, in San Francisco, which was just a fantastic city to grow up in. It's getting really expensive for families now. It's too bad that people can't grow up in the city. I did grow up in the city of San Francisco in the Marina District, which is probably about right here on the picture. Those other two buildings are schools I went to growing up, Catholic schools. This is Stewart Hall, a grammar school, and St. Ignatius, a Jesuit high school that I attended. I mentioned that they're Catholic schools because that was really a large aspect of our family, is that I grew up in a very devout Catholic household. And certainly by the example of our parents, we were very dedicated towards giving to those and helping those who cannot help themselves. It's something that's really stayed with my family, with my brother and my sister. We continue to be tremendously active in the church. One other aspect of our family actually growing up is that we got to travel a lot, which was really wonderful. My father needed to travel quite a bit for his work. And what he would do as much as possible is link his business trips with our school vacations and then take us with him. So on a spring break, I never went to Tahoe or to Big Bear to ski, but I did get to go to England, France, Spain, Israel, Greece, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Japan. When you have somebody who works with airlines, you get to fly for free. So it was great that my father actually took advantage of those opportunities. One of the particular vacations that we actually took to was to Rome.
Of course.
So this is me and St. John Paul II in 1982. So he was only Pope then. But this was in St. Peter's Square at one of the Wednesday addresses that the Pope does. This was actually not long before he got shot. And the change was that he used to be driven around to this large group of people, and he would get out of the car and he would just walk around and interact with people before he would make his address. Nowadays the Pope goes around and that Pope mobile is all bulletproof glass and everything like that, so it's a real shame. But this was very nice. Some of you are probably wondering if he said anything to me. He didn't say anything to me here, but he did say something to me here. So this was actually Years later, in 1994, I was 24 at this time, and this was actually a private audience that we had with the Pope. And you see there are a lot of smiling faces. Myself, the Pope, Monsignor behind us, my father in the background. And the reason that everybody is smiling is because I have just shown the picture, the Pope, the picture of when we met 12 years earlier. And so he really, really enjoyed that, obviously. And you can see that he reached out to me, kind of tousled my hair, and then he pulled me close and he said, "You are forever my student." So words that will really stay with me, special words. To that end, Scott Pafford, congratulations, you win the bottle of wine. So thank you to everybody who responded. I loved getting those responses back from you. For the people who don't know what I'm talking about, read the emails, please do. A special shout out to everybody who thought that I actually got a football scholarship to Notre Dame. I feel like I should give you something just for thinking that about me. I didn't go to Notre Dame. I went to school down here at Loyola Marymount. That's how I got into Southern California. I was a film production major at Loyola, which was a great experience. Graduated in 1993. And my first job was working in Hollywood. I worked for a television movie producers. Everybody remember the Sunday night movie of the week? Every network had them, and when they weren't showing a James Bond movie or The Sound of Music or something like that, they showed original movies, and that's what our office made. This was actually the last movie that our office made before the gentleman that I work for here retired. When he did, that was about 1998 or so, I was looking for new work. I didn't want to stay in Hollywood. I wanted something that was a little more stable. And a mentor of mine actually said, "Well, have you considered perhaps nonprofit work and fundraising?" And initially I was very dismissive of the idea. I thought, well, no, I need a real job. I need something that's got a future, where I can make money. I'm married now. We want to get a house, have kids someday. Again, I need a real job. I don't want to save the whales. I can do that later. And he said, no, you don't understand. Fundraising and nonprofits are a large industry, and they are a professional industry. They need talented people just like any other business does. I'm not talking about you going and scraping oil off the rocks in Alaska. I'm talking about you working for a church or for a school or for a hospital. And he says, they're going to want people like you, and I know your skills, and I also know you, and I think this is something that you'd enjoy, and I think you'd be good at. And he was correct. So since then, I've worked for a number of nonprofits doing fundraising. These are a few of them. The Weingart Center was my first job that I had. That was actually working on Skid Row, 6th and San Pedro, downtown, raising money for the homeless. A tremendous experience. Cancer support community was, both of my parents are cancer survivors. So when I got the opportunity to work for that organization, I really jumped at it. It was a fabulous place. When I worked at it, it was called the Wellness Community, but they merged with another group. I also worked for a little while at St. Patrick's Seminary up in Menlo Park. That was a job that didn't last long for the simple reason that when I got that job, that's when the priest scandal really started to blow up. And boy, that turned out to be a really, really miserable experience. Imagine trying to ask money for priests when the headlines are really documenting, some of the terrible things that the priests had done. So that was one I left fairly quickly. I did spend a number of years with the Boy Scouts. I am an Eagle Scout myself. And that was a lot of fun, raising money for kids, underprivileged kids, so they could become scouts, raising money for the camps and everything else. Got to do a lot of really fun stuff with them. And then lastly, and currently for the last 4 years, I've been working at Glendale Memorial Health Foundation, which is an organization that raises money exclusively for Glendale Memorial Hospital. And it's been a fantastic place, and certainly the most rewarding place that I've been able to work at. So I just want to talk a little about nonprofits in general, and just what is a nonprofit. The first misnomer is that people do think that nonprofits do not make a profit, and that's something that's incorrect. Nonprofits are businesses. They have needs and they have bills. They may have a mission, but they also have money that they need to spend. So nonprofits do actually need to make a profit. They need to, if you're going to add a new person, if you are going to expand your services, you need to make more money than you did the year before. So it is a regular functioning business. Nonprofits, typically the ones that we are thinking about that you're familiar with, have often a 501c3 designation by the IRS. This means that the revenue that they take in is not taxed, and that the donors to those charities also can write off those kind of contributions. To do that, you have to be an organization that's fairly specific, to be tax exempt, an organization organized for exempt purposes, which I show below. None of the earnings may inure to any private shareholder or individual. I'll talk about that in just a second. That's key. But as you can see, what the purpose are: charitable, religious, educational, scientific, literary, testing for public safety, fostering national and international sports, and preventing cruelty to children or animals. But really the feature of a nonprofit is that, or the difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit is that the money must stay within the organization. A for-profit company, if I have a company that makes $100,000, that costs $100,000 to run, and I make $101,000, as the owner of the company, I have every legal right to take that extra $1,000 out of the company for myself. I am the owner. That money, those profits belong to me as owner. A nonprofit does not have an owner, and any money generated, that brought into the company or generated by the company as a profit, actually has to be reinvested into the company, and that's what gets you that designation. So how much do we donate to charities in a year? You can see that's a pretty impressive number. In the United States alone, $390 billion. As a country, we are far and away the most generous people in the world. That number's not even close to anywhere else. It's really amazing. And I like actually this breakdown because you can see that it's individuals who do the lion's share of giving. This is not a matter of companies giving a lot or these other areas, foundations, bequests, those are wills and trust and things like that. But a lot of our business is literally going out to people because you are the donors. You are the people who are the most generous. Not only does the country give more as a country, but there's no more generous individuals in the world than American citizens. Steve?
And actually, shouldn't bequests be part of individuals?
You can, but bequests become, they become part of their own, they're their own organization when you create a trust. That's why they separate it out. But that only would make that individual number even more impressive. So, who do we give to? Well, this is a breakdown of where that money goes. I'm sorry, that should all be billion in there. So you can see that religious organizations take the lion's share of giving in this country. We are a religious country, and we don't often recognize that, but it's one of those things that if you go to Europe or other places in the world, they look at us as a very religious country. More churches, more people attending churches, and so that's kind of reflected there. By the way, if you have a question about how religious we are, more people will go to a Catholic Mass this Sunday than will go to the movies. Now, we have a sense in our culture that everybody goes to the movies or something like that, but more people are actually just going to Catholic church. That's not even including Christian churches, Jewish temples, all of the different faiths around. So that's where you see that religious organizations, and religious organizations isn't just supporting your literal church. Those can be the outreach programs that your churches are all involved with. So you may have a church that runs a soup kitchen or some kind of homeless outreach or other kind of program. So that's where those monies go. But you can see that where we are with education, human services, foundations, that's giving to other organizations that are going to spread that out further. Health organizations, this is the number that I would like to see raised as much as possible, but 33 billion. We're at Glendale Memorial, we were trying to get that slice of the 33 billion and hope that Cedars doesn't take too much of it. Public society benefits, this could be like a library or something like that that goes to those monies. Arts and culture, Nina, that's what you want. You're lagging behind health organizations. I know you want to bring that up quite a bit. International affairs, and then environment and animal organizations. I'm not sure why they pair those up together, but they do. But you can see just where some of the priorities are with our giving in our country. So I want to talk just as we go here about some of the fundraising vehicles that organizations use. Obviously, every organization is different. I work for a hospital. Besides fundraising, we obviously take in money from insurance companies, from Medicare and private charging of clients. The Alex Theater actually holds shows and sells tickets. However, in fundraising departments, there are about 5 pillars of fundraising that organizations use to raise their money. So the first one is called annual giving. These are regular programs that come up consistently. They are designed to go after a large audience, not necessarily to get a large amount, but just to get a large number of gifts brought in. So, and examples of these are direct mail. This is all the junk we send to you that you get at your homes, especially around Christmas time. Maybe we'll give you, a little packet that has those self-addressed, response items that you can put on letters and things like that. Direct magazines, which of course will always have a response envelope in them.
Convenient.
Pardon me?
That's convenient.
How about that, huh? No, there really shouldn't be a piece that goes out from a nonprofit to you that doesn't have some kind of response mechanism, a website link at the very least. But again, we don't send out something like this expecting that you are going to give us a $1,000 contribution through the mail. What we are hoping is that if we send out enough of these, is that 100 people will give us $10, or 10 people will give us $100. It's designed to be as much as possible. This is an industry, hold on, I'll answer in just a second, that is going digital very quickly. We have a generation that still writes checks. Most of the annual gifts that I give are people that are writing checks back. I don't get a whole lot of online donations, and that's just our particular industry. Our donors trend to be a lot older. However, that's changing with millennials and Generation Z, as we heard last week, now donations are being done on your phone, and people are sending out e-blasts, they are texting, they are moving out through social media platforms in order to make their reaches, and they want people just to do that click, give me $10 right here, very quickly, and that's where these new generations are starting to move into. It costs virtually nothing to do an e-blast or some of these others, so it's becoming a very efficient means of raising money. Keith, you had a question.
Since you're doing such a great job, could you share the response rates for these different mechanisms?
So direct mail, I mean, you're talking about only a couple of percentage points that we actually expect to have a response from. But it's still worthwhile because the cost of printing, the cost of postage is still making this worthwhile. But really, if we get 2 to 5% or something like that, that's a really good response rate. But when I do direct mail, I'm sending it out to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Same with the magazine and other programs. Certainly that's what makes digital giving so efficient, is that I've got at least 5,000 emails that I can blast out to at any time and just hope that I get a few people to give me something in response. The next area is major giving, and this is actually for, in general, I don't want to speak for industry to industry because Nina may come up with a, well, we do it like this or we do it like that, but in general, for fundraising, major giving has become the bread and butter of what we do. These are large gifts. A major gifts, at least, and how we at Glendale Memorial categorize a major gift is that somebody who gives $10,000 or more. And so we are looking for the high impact person. That is not a broad reach. It is not a boilerplate letter. This giving is very, very personalized. So if we do research and think that you are a prospect, you show some interest, you are going to be invited to a location. You are going to be offered lunch. You are going to have materials given to you that are actually created for you. You may find yourself, if you're a major donor, that you're going to get benefits. You're going to get invited to special events. You're going to have your company's ad is going to be on the back of a magazine. You are not going to be solicited. You are going to be courted. And what the industry is really finding right now is that this is actually the most efficient way right now we're finding of raising money. So it is worth us putting more time into a single donor for a larger gift than it is to do some of these annual giving programs. So not that annual giving is going away. This is foundations do a multitude of outreach activities, but this is something where more and more people are investing in.
What was that big gift you got this year?
How many BMWs did you buy?
We just, and that's a good example, 2.5 million from the Ho Foundation, and that was working actually with the people at Pacific BMW. So this is something that took years of cultivation, but it paid off. Years of cultivation for $2.5 million is a return on investment that there's no other thing that I'm going to talk about has been that efficient an item.
And,
special event. Sorry, did I hear something else?
Somebody gives you 2.5 million. That also gets other people to recognize you, doesn't it? And also gives you the opportunity to get other larger grants.
Absolutely. That actually puts us on that. And I'll give you this specific example. We're raising money for a part of the hospital that we're going to renovate, and we've had other foundations that are interested in giving, but they want to make sure that we're for real. And when you get a gift like that, you put yourself on a level that says people are really willing to invest in you. We'll come in after something like that. So yes, that's actually something that leads to more. Puts you on the map as well. It's something that you broadcast quite a bit. Special events. I think we're all familiar with special events. Rotary holds special events. Glendale Educational Foundation, and we all do. We have poker nights, we have gala dinners, we have golf tournaments and everything. Special events can be big fundraisers if you do them right. Our gala dinner for Glendale Memorial raises $350,000 for the hospital. So it's really worth doing. Special events generate a tremendous amount of awareness. Special event is something that you can get into the local newspapers. Wine and Roses for us, does get into the Glendale News Press and the CV Weekly and a number of other outlets. We also use the photos from that in our magazines, in our own social media and outreach. So there's a value to that even beyond the dollars. However, there is a flip side to all this, because the industry as a whole is starting to see a decline in special events and special event giving. And these are the two reasons. They are very labor intensive and they can become very costly. To that end, we are not doing a golf tournament anymore. It just is, I don't know why that gets an applause, but go poker night, go comedy night. But the return on investment just wasn't there. This is an event that was getting more and more expensive, but we weren't able to generate more and more interest. And so it was just taking up more time. Also, I can tell you because in my office, I put on the special events. I run the annual giving programs. I also put on the special events. Is that a golf tournament takes months to plan. It is a lot of man hours to do a special event, especially if you're doing one of a particular size. You have to equate those hours. Those are hours that I could have been spending perhaps courting a major gift or something else, and you have to put the value of somebody's time not into account, not just even the cost. And again, so we're starting to see less focus on special events and more focus on major giving. When I came into Glendale Memorial, Glendale Memorial was raising about $750,000, and they were doing it just through 2 special events, a gala dinner and the golf tournament. That was really inefficient. They actually were they were over budget for what they were raising. We now raise, this year we're going to raise, I think with this gift, we're going to be raising, well, we'll see what the final, we're going to be raising over $3 million this year. We've been raising $2 million for the last number of years, and that is because we've actually broadened these programs. We've focused more now on major giving and less on special events, to the point we even got rid of one of them, but actually we've seen our revenues increase. So that's where that mix really comes in. Grants are really a tricky thing to talk about. They become a very, very specific subsection of fundraising. There is a lot of grant money that is out there potentially. You saw the billions of dollars that are there from foundations. There is even more in public grant from state and from federal opportunities. The problem is, so that has become a very specialized area. Grant writing is actually a profession really unto its own. There are organizations where people do it as a little bit of a side job for, as part of their duties, but really it's become, you hire people that have specific experience in writing, to find out what these foundations or what the government wants to see out of something like this. It takes a tremendous amount of research and a lot of writing skills to be a grant writer. Grants, there's a lot of money, but it can be really, really tricky, because I'll tell you right now, certainly with public funding, we don't know what the public funding is for so many areas, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the arts. We never seem to have a proper budget from our government. It comes and it goes. And you have very, very little control over what happens. You can put in a tremendous number of hours of research and writing to cultivate a grant proposal, and it could just be turned down just on its face. So it's a tricky thing. People, if they want to do it, there are nonprofits that really do invest in grant writing and the opportunities there. It's something that at Glendale Memorial we've been a little bit hesitant on. I'm just going to go over one more thing, because I see Nina wants to give me those little beads. But the last one I do want to talk about is legacy giving. And this is really the future of fundraising, as we're seeing in our industry. So these are gifts that you give after you have passed away. So wills, bequests, trusts, property transfers. But this is a gift without giving. This is becoming more popular because there are a lot of advantages to this. If you give to us through a will or a trust in some other vehicle like this, you have the opportunity to get all of the benefits, all of the tax advantages and everything now, while you're living, before you even give us the property. So if you give the hospital your house in a will, you will receive all of the tax benefits right now. You will get to continue to live in the house. Nothing will get turned over until after you pass. And so we're starting to see, this is another specialized area, and this is actually where we have lawyers that are specifically trained to walk people through this. But it is the future, and the reason it's the future, and this is my last slide, I promise, is over the next 30 to 40 years, $30 trillion in financial and non-financial assets is expected to pass from the baby boomers, the one-time largest generation and wealthiest, to their heirs. So we are in the midst of an enormous transfer of wealth. It is starting to happen to the Generation X. It will eventually move over to the millennials, who will probably take the bulk of it. But if you are moving money, especially in bequests and to other people, again, nonprofits are looking for just even a taste of that amount of money. And that's why we're focusing. You're starting to hear, again, nobody's talking about Generation X. It's a small generation. They're talking about millennials because these are the people that are really going to inherit this amount of money, and it is a huge, huge pot. So, are there any questions? Sorry, I had to run through this really